Chair of the Oconee County Conservation Bank Board, calling the meeting of the board to order. The September 17th meeting to order. Present are members Ryan Keys, Frank Abels, Fran Rundalette, and Marvin Prater, and myself. We've got a quorum. First thing is approval of the minutes. We have a motion, or have a motion on the minutes?
So moved.
Second.
Fran and Frank, any discussion about them? No discussion, all in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Okay, no opposed. Next, treasurer's report.
All right, you should have a copy or have seen a copy of the treasurer's report. The Community First Bank account has not changed. It's the same, $14,980. The local government investment pool account did change. We had some interest added of $1,145.54, which brings our total in that account to $593,148.42. So we are making a little money now.
Right.
So that's great. And Mr. Chairman, that is the treasurer's report.
Very good. Do we have a motion to approve?
I make a motion.
A second.
Okay. Any discussion? No. All in favor, say aye. Aye. Okay. Discussion items, revisit 2019-2020 budget. I asked that Katie put that on the agenda. And so I just want to go over a few things in that regard. We are allowed to give funds for interest in land, not just closing cost. I think the prior boards had really focused more on closing cost. Mr. Martin asked us last meeting about ability to do bridge funds, and so I queried the county attorney and the county treasurer about that. Short story is the South Carolina Constitution prohibits government entities from making loans except in very narrow circumstances dealing with public schools. So that's the answer on that. There have been a lot of attempts to work around that haven't worked as well, hadn't worked at all. As you know, we're going to be talking about applications today. Our ordinance requires that we make application decisions within 60 days of our deadlines. Going to the budget, our ordinance doesn't require that we have a budget. I thought and I think that it's a good idea. When we passed our budget, one of the things that was said in our discussion by Mr. Keese was that, well, let's try it and see how it works. And my opinion is it's not working. And so I think the cap that we set's arbitrary and too low. And so Mr. Stone actually made a suggestion last time about this of perhaps pegging a cap to a percentage. And the question is a percentage of what? And in my thinking about it, I thought that the kind of objective thing that we could peg a percentage cap to would be the appraised conservation value. So when we see our opinions of fair market value, we're seeing an opinion as to what's the fair market value of this piece of property as is, being developed, whatever. And then we see the reduced value once you strip off the development rights, as you would do with a conservation easement. And so you have a conservation value that's the difference between those two. And that's really what we're looking at when we are thinking about granting money, is that conservation value. So following Mac's idea, and I also had the suggestion of Eddie Martin to talk to the executive director of the South Carolina Conservation Bank, which I did. We had a good conversation. Raleigh West is his name, and I told him about that. He agreed that the cap that we'd set, just an arbitrary $25,000, is, was maybe awkward, not a good idea. He liked the idea of pegging it to the conservation value. The question would be what percentage? And so I kind of ran through some of the numbers on the current applications we have, 25%, 20, et cetera. And what I thought in terms of what we are looking at as our real life test cases is that 10% would be a fair value. I think on the properties we're looking at, the Moore property is $81,000, the conservation value. The Lyles property is $340,000. The Worthington property, the Coney Bell property is $580,000 because it's the entire property. And so if you did that 10%, it'd be 8,100, it'd be 34,000, it'd be 58,000. So that's, and when I was talking to Raleigh about that, Raleigh West about that, he really liked that idea. He said that 10% would actually work well with what the South Carolina Conservation Bank does. It would give them certainty in the way they think about what we're doing, and he actually thought that it would work well in harmony with what they're doing. And I mean, he was actually kind of, I don't know how excitable he is, but he seemed like he was a little excited about that idea, liked it, and he also thought that it would help when he goes to the General Assembly to seek more funding for the South Carolina Conservation Bank, and it would also help us when we go seek more funds from, say, Duke. So that's kind of what I actually would like to put on the table. You know, I don't know if anybody's ready to reverse a decision. Reminds me of General Custer's words in Little Big Man, I never reverse a Custer decision. You know, I'm for it, and I'm going to make that motion, see if we get a second so we can discuss it. So I move that we amend our budget to base our individual grant cap with a max of 10% of the conservation values of the properties we're looking at, and have a 1/3 of our funds cap for what we spend each year. So in other words, when we started this fiscal year on whenever it was, August 1st, I guess, it was going to be $600,000+, so that our cap would be 1/3 of that. So that'd be the most that we'd spend unless there were some special circumstance in each year. So
Well, I was going to suggest that.
do we have a second to that?
I second.
Okay, I'm sorry, Fran, go ahead.
I was going to suggest that we save our money for big properties that occur, and that would do that.
Okay.
I have
Say.
a couple points that came to mind, and is that what you, I don't want to interrupt you.
Yeah, no.
Done? First off, I like the idea because I've been giving it a lot of thought since our last meeting, and I feel strongly that if we don't do something constructive, me going out and making a case to potential donors is going to be a pretty dull knife. If I don't have something I can show for it, like, hey, this is the stuff we got, Oconee County's first revolutionary, or, I mean, we could have something, a portfolio to show. So I'm afraid if we keep it low and we're basically arbitrarily setting it kind of what I think is now conservative. I didn't at first, but the more I've thought about it, I do. I think we're kind of going to spin our wheels for years. I mean, yes, we'll keep a balance, but I don't think we're going to have much to show for it, and we won't have the ability to raise more money or get donations. But second thing that came to mind is how are we going to evaluate an appraisal when we have no guideline on what that appraisal has to be? There's different kinds of appraisals. I mean, believe me, I've seen appraisals by an in-house guy I mean, you can see in-house appraisals, you can see certified appraisals, you can see MAI, commercial appraisals, you can see. So I think we need to consider, we need a good of some sort, and I need some input from you guys maybe. What is the standard for conservation properties? Like, what would be an adequate appraisal?
What we use when we do,
Introduce yourself, Eric.
I'm Eddie Martin with the Oconee Soil and Water Conservation District. And what we use when we are seeking ASAP or NRCS funding is the Yellow Book appraisals. There are several of those guys in the state. Rick Holstein is one that we use continuously because he's familiar with what we do, and he's able to come to us when we ask him to do it. You know, some of the other guys are more busy. We have used some others in the past, but they are familiar with conservation easements, the people that use that book.
Okay.
So that would be my suggestion, that from the work that you're trying to do here, those would be the people that you would contact.
Okay.
Eddie, doesn't the South Carolina Conservation Bank have a list of approved appraisers for their work?
Yes, they do.
Okay. And are those all Yellow Book appraisers?
They would be, I think, because they're funding, a lot of the funding that they partner on is based off of ASAP or NRCS funds.
Okay, thanks.
One question.
Go ahead, Mark.
For my ignorance, no, explain Yellow Book appraisal.
Well,
What
it's like,
is certification or what have you?
I would say that it is a system that is built up around conservation appraisals. You know, they're coming out and looking, they understand the difference between, if you get a regular appraisal out and he's never done any conservation work, he's not going to understand the conservation value once the development rights have been removed from that.
Okay.
Okay, that's, I do everything simple, and that's,
Yeah.
that's my simple explanation for it.
Is there training for that, Eddie? Are these appraisers trained for this conservation?
I don't know that,
Or
but
is it just
I would say they
experience?
probably do. It's experience, and there may be some training, but I can't fully answer that.
Mr. Stone, do you have something for us in this?
Sure.
Introduce yourself, please.
I'm Max Stone with Natural Land Trust. We've worked with Yellow Book appraisers, and Yellow Book appraisals are typically only required when you're working with a federal entity. And so when we are working with U.S. Forest Service, for example, to acquire a piece of land for them, they require a Yellow Book appraisal. One issue, or several issues, with Yellow Book appraisals is that they are a little more onerous and that they take longer. They take much longer. They cost a lot more. So instead of paying $500 for an appraisal for someone to go out and look at comps in your property, you're usually paying around $4,000 up to $8,000. It's a lot of money. Additionally, you were asking about the certifications for Yellow Book appraisals. Yes, there is a specific certification process to be a Yellow Book appraiser, which is why they charge a lot more money. There are much fewer of them, so they also get tied up. Additionally, what happens with a Yellow Book appraisal is that the appraiser goes out and they look at the property, they make their comps, they make their comparisons. The Yellow Book appraisals are much longer, so it's a much longer process for them to do. Then those appraisals are then reviewed by kind of like a peer review process, essentially, which is why it takes longer. Conservation Bank, they have their list of state appraisers. They have their list of approved appraisers, ones that they know haven't been egregious in how they appraise properties. And yes, there's totally different kinds of appraisers that will go out and look at properties. We've found that we do get some fluctuations, but as long as the comps are sound and recent, then we have no reason to question or, I don't know, kind of go against what they say. But we've never really had an issue. And any times we have had an issue on a property with a landowner that disagrees with their value, we just ask them to bring comps to the appraiser, and the appraiser will look at it and review. But I would suggest, or I would recommend not going with Yellow Book, just simply because of cost, because of time, because of the limited number of Yellow Book appraisers.
Okay, all right, thank you. Just looking at our application form, proposal will not be considered without adequate substantiation of estimated fair market value and a qualified and competent appraisal establishing fair market value and/or the value of the proposed easement will subsequently be required prior to closing. So there has to be an appraisal prior to closing, but we need some kind of substantiation of the estimated fair market value. And that's what we get in our applications from you guys. Any other discussion on?
I mean, I think
Okay.
the point I'm getting at is we're spending county council's money, not our money, but, with approval. If, as I understand it, this is the county's money, right?
Yeah.
So I'm curious about, could we be questioned if we kind of spend more on one and it has a non-yellow book? And, like, if there's different evaluations, I'm just trying to be mindful of being stewards of other people's money. Like, could we be, in jeopardy of doing something wrong? I feel like because of my job as a real estate broker, I can go out and look at land and, I feel like I can gauge whether I think an appraisal is accurate or not, just like, Marvin can. But the point I'm getting at is if we just reserve the right to, if we have a more thorough Yellow Book appraisal, we can have more confidence in what we're doing, but it doesn't sound like we're violating any rule if we don't, based on what you just said.
I think that's correct. In talking to Raleigh, he said they look at, in their analysis, they make sure that the property or the transactions mature, that they know whether they get in a conservation easement or fee simple, or if there's something about the transaction that's not quite right. So that's one of the things they look at. They also look at that they're not asking for too high a percentage in relation to the conservation value. And the other is that the valuation is reliable. And I think he's just saying, does it pass the sniff test in a sense? He's not an appraiser, but he's looking at it and, it's people like you and Marvin that have an idea because you're dealing it professionally that, we would rely on you guys saying, I think this is way out of bounds or whatever, something like that. But you're right, there's a lot of different kinds of appraisals and we're not.
Well, we
board of
can
appraisal.
reserve the right to use our judgment.
That's right.
I think the more restrictions we put on ourselves, we're not going to have the ability, when something really good comes in front of us, we could be capped out of helping them,
Now, does that mean that you don't like the idea of a cap period?
Part of me does and part of me kind of doesn't. Because, we can, number one, a majority of us has to agree on it.
That's correct.
So,
But you can also have a large tract of land come in, 1,500 acres or something up in the mountains that could wipe us out in one blow at a 10%.
And we're never pegged to having to give 10%.
That's
We
right.
could give 7% or,
But not more.
we're trying to create a structure for ourselves.
I think
that makes sense.
the main reason I think that it's important for us to have something is so that they know what we can and can't take a look at, or what they can, when they're balancing the numbers, they're not gonna have time for us to, they've gotta have enough ducks in a row to make their things happen. If the way I've been to meetings so far and
Absolutely.
seeing this.
I mean, a good example is Mac, requested $25,000 because he knew that was our cap.
Right.
And we asked him, what would you have asked for? He said 70. But the other folks, before we made a cap, they asked what they wanted to ask.
Yeah.
But you're right. So. So right now, we have a budget that limits us to 25,000.
So what you want to do is do away with the budget and just put a percentage of the projects.
Yes, so there's not the only dollar amount, I would say, of the budget would be that 1/3 per year. Otherwise, we're capping ourselves on individual grant applications. We look at it, 10% of the conservation value is our max.
So something big could come through first, second quarter of the year, and we could cap out at that third. Which I'm okay with, but,
Or we could lose the property.
or we could lose it, yeah.
So what your recommendation is to put 1/3 of the money into the budget, correct?
Yeah, or just say we won't spend
Okay.
more than 1/3 of the budget each year. And let's say, next year if we spend a third now, it's gonna be a smaller amount
right.
because we just chopped off a third. I don't know, it's just, and that's just another random-ish idea, but I just figured we needed some sort of, and maybe we don't, some sort of limit on what we spend each year. I don't know. I mean, that's my idea. I'm happy for.
Well, I'm like Ryan, until we start spending money, we're not gonna be able to accumulate any more except through this
Yeah.
local fund. So, I mean, I'm good with the 10% of that.
I'm
Well,
almost
up to
led
10%.
Huh?
Up to 10%.
Right.
I'm almost led to the 10% cap and not.
Nothing else.
And nothing else, because I just think we will then be, I just think it's another constraint. Let's use our judgment. We can back off and say, look, let's hold off. I mean, we can say no. I mean, but I want to be able to say yes when we need to.
That's right.
You know what I'm saying? Like,
Yeah.
okay, I think we're all intelligent and we can make, we're not going to go recklessly through our budget. But that would give them more clarity on what the 10%, of the project.
I'm not against that. So may I amend my motion, Katie?
And then the one you did previously?
No, the one I just made
That's what I'm
10
saying.
minutes
You
ago.
wanna amend that
Yes,
one?
that's right.
Amend the amendment.
Sure.
Or, how should I do it? What's the
No,
best
you
procedure?
can. You can, because there wasn't a vote, so
Right.
you can.
Okay, so my motion would be to
So,
scrap.
let me ask this, are you tacking on to that motion?
No, I'll just withdraw it. I'll give a new motion. How about that?
Okay, so you have to have,
Well, we're in the discussion period, so technically all you've got to do is adjust what you've already stated.
Yeah, I'm just asking for the
Is that
procedure.
right?
I'm trying to take something out of the motion I made. What's the way that I do that?
I don't know the best way. Maybe the cleanest way would be to withdraw the motion.
Okay,
And then to make a new one maybe.
okay.
I'm thinking that maybe that would probably be the cleanest way to do that.
I hereby
You have to
withdraw my
have,
prior
first,
motion.
a second, and
Fran
a
needs to
third.
withdraw her second.
You need to withdraw your second.
Okay, I withdraw the second.
Okay,
Okay, hang on, okay, so you're,
I withdrew. Fran withdrew her second.
okay, and then you have to.
So the new motion is that,
You have to have a vote on that, because it's a motion.
oh, okay.
Yeah.
All in favor?
All in favor?
Aye.
Okay.
Okay,
So I'd like to move
now
that,
you can do a new motion.
okay, move that we scrap our prior approved budget
Okay,
and replace it with a budget that is simply an individual grant budget cap of 10% of the conservation value cited in the application that we feel confident with.
I like Ryan's idea of
We have a
reserving
second on
the
that?
right.
Do we have a second?
Second.
Okay.
I second.
I like his idea
Ryan seconded.
of reserving the right to get a different appraisal.
I
I
agree.
think we can cross that bridge when we get there.
Any more discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Any opposed?
Mr. Abels, did you vote, I'm sorry,
Yes, I voted yes.
Four, okay.
For.
thank you.
All right. Continuing. Now this is, now we are actually doing our decision-making process on the 3 applications before us, starting with the Moore property.
I'm out.
Just for the more, yes.
Let's make
Don't
sure-
forget me.
Let's make sure we get him.
I
Before we
will be
leave,
out the Lyles
I would like to
For the
make a
Lyles.
motion that
And when we get done, you'll just decide.
we
That's all.
give Mr. Keys the right to speak for OCCB at meetings, such as the Kiwi Key.
Well, he's coming back. He'll be back later in the meeting. Let's do that under new business, okay? Will you make a note yourself to put it under there? All right, so let me ask you first, did anybody go through their ranking process and come up with their final numbers? Frank didn't?
No, I
Fran didn't? Marvin didn't, okay, all right, so that's what we gotta do. And I should have told y'all to do that before this meeting, and I'm sorry I didn't. So, let the arduous process begin. All right, so does everybody have what we should have is two documents. First is our evaluation criteria scoring, is this one right here, okay? This is our final kind of summary document, okay? It's a 2-page document. We should also have this, the criteria worksheet. Everybody have that?
Yeah.
Okay, so that's a 4-page document. That's what we have to do now, is our criteria worksheet, okay? And so you should have that criteria worksheet in front of you. You should also have the MORE application for funding. And you want to turn to page 9 in that MORE application. Does everybody have that?
I'll return it.
So this is what we're looking for. We're looking for section 4 in the MORE application. That's page 9 of 13. Does everybody except for Marvin have that? Okay. I can give it to Marvin on my computer if you want to.
No, I mean, this is fine. I'm just trying to get all of it.
Okay.
Do you need the rest of them?
I won't need Lyle's, but I'll need
And you'll need more? Okay.
the last one.
Okay, Marvin, you're going to turn to page 9 of 13. And so on our criteria worksheet, we're going to go through there and we're going to score them. You ready, Marvin?
Yes, sir.
Okay, so looking at the criteria worksheet, wetlands, you see the answer is no. Okay, so that's 0. You see blue line streams and lakes, that's a no. You see adjacent to outstanding natural resource water, that's a no. Presence of habitat suitable for threatened endangered species, again, that's a no. Presence of habitat suitable for native wildlife species, again, that's a no. Presence of special or concentrated biodiversity, again, a no from the application. Unique geological and natural feature. Fran, didn't you say there were springs on the property?
Yeah, there are.
Okay.
One.
Tell us about those springs.
The springs are on a far corner of the property.
Okay.
Yeah, and not much.
Not much, all right.
Would you consider them a unique geological feature?
I would not.
No.
You would not? Okay. So the consensus on that 0. So the total score under that section 0, okay? Percentage of property sharing a boundary with protected land, per the application, that's 0. Historic cultural features, National Historic Register designation, no. Eligible,
I would argue with that the house itself is a historic feature.
now, 3 or 4 give you the opportunity to say it's a historic, prehistoric structure.
Okay.
That's talking specifically about the national program, National Register of Historic Places.
Okay.
So we got to pick where we want to score from that.
It's not on the historic register.
It's not. And then the next question is whether it's eligible for. I don't know that program, but the applicant, I believe, is saying no. But the applicant's not saying yes on any of this, but I think from your visit there and your knowledge of it, it has a historic structure there.
It has an older house, circa 1930s, maybe 20s. something like that. They
Well,
had
that's
moved
close
on
to
the
100
property.
years.
Would you give it any ranking as a historic or prehistoric structure?
I would rank it as a 1.
Frank?
It's got some good features from the time period. I mean, some of the woodwork and stuff in it, so, yeah, I'd agree with Fran, maybe a 1.
Okay, all right, so we're gonna give it a 1 for that. So its total score is 1 for that.
Which one did you give the 1 to?
It's to historic, prehistoric structures, the third one.
Third, okay.
Yes, ma'am. Prime statewide important soil types, the applicant says it's 50 to 60%. Looking at the map, my eyeball says it's closer to 60 than 50. I would give it a 4 for that. Any other thoughts on that?
No.
Okay, so 4 is the final number on that. Actively farmed, we know it is, gets a 5 for that. Public visibility of property, you can see it from a federal, state, or county road, so I think it gets a 5 for that. Is it visible from any public lands or waterways? I don't think so, so it doesn't get anything. So its total score is 5. Scenic view from property, if you're standing on the property looking out, you're gonna get a scenic view of anything? How about farms and all that good?
Blue Ridge Mountains.
Huh?
You can see the Blue Ridge
How about
Mountains.
agricultural land from there? and
Yeah.
All that?
Yeah.
How about a 5 for that? Everybody okay with that?
Yeah.
From what you would see from it, so that's a total 5 there. Public access is 0, it's a farm, we don't want to get anybody's head chopped off. Threat of development, you know, within or adjacent to a park of some sort, don't think it is. Within 1 mile of an incorporated municipality, what the applicant has selected, that it's 5 miles from a municipality, that's D. It would get a 2 for that. Here's my feeling about that, is that I think that, I mean, if we can use our judgment in this beyond the scoring, I would give, I'd give it the highest ranking because it's flat, it's near the interstate, it's easily developable. I don't care where it is in relation to a park or a municipality, it could be developed, in my opinion.
I think so too.
There's no category for that, but I would say we'd give it maximum points for that, myself. Which,
I mean, any piece of property in that area is
right,
to be.
I mean, that's the threat, that's the threat to that kind of property, and I think we actually ought to revise this to put something in there for it, but anyhow, so what?
And I think it does have good soils.
Oh, yeah, we got the good soils, exactly, absolutely. So I would guess, I'd suggest we give it a 5 for that, for that true threat of development. Is everybody in agreement with that? Okay, size, it's 35 acres, so it doesn't even meet that 51 to 250, but I'd still give it something. And so not a 5, but I would give it a 3, at least for that. I mean, what do y'all think?
I was thinking 2, but I mean, that's here and that there.
Yeah.
That.
What do you think, Marvin? What do you think, Fran?
Yeah, go on.
I'm good with 3.
Okay, all right, let's give it 3 for that. So let's go from there to, and have you got all that recorded now? Okay, so now you know what our total summary is for all those points, right?
It's 28.
And what's the total number?
28.
28. So
Maximum of 100.
maximum of 100. So it's got 28. Should we do the financial part next? Let's do the financial part next.
That's not on here.
Well, okay, now you go
Section 5.
to the 2-page document, evaluation criteria scoring. And on the page 2 of that, Katie's got our 28 in there with all its numbers. Now we're at the section 2 financial. You know, it's in this 2-page document right here. Everybody got that? There you go. So on page 2, now we're on the financial criteria. First, funding percentage requested. They requested, was the request for 81? Was it?
48 something.
I think it's 40,508, I believe.
So it's half of the,
Right.
the conservation value. I'm a little blurry on this scoring mechanism there. So funding percentage requested is 50%. So what kind of score, Frank, do you think that gives us on this? None, poor, fair, good, or excellent?
But if it's 28%, that's on the poor side, is it not?
What do you mean 28%?
Well, you said-
Oh, you mean on
Oh,
this,
the
this up
score,
here, I
yes, on
see.
that side.
Okay.
I mean, 28 out of 100.
But I'm not sure what that's asking us on the financial. Funding percentage requested. They're requesting 50% of the conservation value from us. Do we have a judgment on that percentage requested? And let me ask, Eddie, do you have any clarification on this? You've sat here before we came along many times. Are you familiar with this part of the?
I'd have to look at have you got the paper over there?
And so while he's thinking about that, let's just summarize the other one. So the next one is matching other monetary contributions. That's obvious. You know, we're rating it on, if they've got other sources for money, that's great. So we give a higher score for the more they have. Low cost for value received, I think that's purely, we take that $81,000 and divide the acreage into it to get how many dollars per acre of conservation value. And I think the math comes out to around $2,300 an acre for that. Other financial benefit, I think that's whatever anybody thinks of. Other incentives, I'm not totally clear what that means. Going back to number one in the financial criteria, funding percentage requested, I mean, does it mean we punish them if they ask for too much, too big of a percentage, or what's it mean?
Good question.
I think that's
Go
what
ahead.
it's saying, but it's probably not, if we're limiting it to 10%, I'm not sure that it's even a fair question for anybody.
Well, would it be that if they gave us a proposal asking for 10%, would we give them an excellent score for following our rules?
Yeah, I'm not sure that that's even a good
Right.
question to have.
My interpretation of this, and these things were developed from the South Carolina Conservation Bank criteria to start with, you know, is that they took their criteria and pulled things out, and sometimes it was word for word. But I think that this probably gives you the opportunity to judge what they were asking for. If they were asking for 50%, which was the normal thing that we did prior to the new administration coming into the South Carolina Conservation Bank. So that was a percentage that we were using, because that was a standard that we had always used when we were doing dual funding. We would get part of it from NRCS, we'd get part of it from the South Carolina Conservation Bank. So I think this is a tool, because some people will donate the full amount. They may ask for the closing costs. So this was a tool possibly judging the applicant's intent and how they felt about what they were asking for.
So in other words, if an applicant came in and the property owner, the farmer was saying, I'm going to donate this, but I'm not going to pay closing costs.
Right.
And the application was to pay for $15,000 worth of closing costs, we would say, that's incredible.
That's a 5,
We
yeah.
give you an excellent score
Yes.
for that.
That's the way I look at
Okay.
this.
All right. Okay. Thank you, sir. All right, so,
If I may,
yes, ma'am.
looking at prior minutes.
Yes, ma'am.
Back from 2017. So just looking at this from prior minutes, the one that you guys just did, the conservation criteria, and then this, those points would actually be combined. So,
Yeah, I understand.
So
We got
with
it.
with this one, the one that I was looking at, there's like the one they gave a 2 for. The next one, the matching or monetary, was a 3. Low cost was a 2, so they went down. Those total score was a 13
Okay.
for that one. So those two would actually be combined for a total score, like the final score.
I got you. I understand. So it's not really that they got 28, right?
You get to add
It's-
the
it's-
financial
I
side.
think Eddie's more on the
Yes.
line of where we're looking at. So they've asked for 50% of the conservation value on this one. How do we want to score that? I think we know what an excellent would be. That would be where property owners donating it, but they're looking for closing cost help. A none might be, I want you to pay for the whole thing, maybe, and they hadn't done any work to get any other sources, anything like that. I mean, I would recommend we give them a 3 for this. Right
If
in the
it
middle.
were less than, say, 10%.
Might be in
what
that
our
excellent.
standard, that would be an excellent.
Right.
If it was full value,
Right,
it would be a 0.
yeah,
And-
right. And of course, nobody knew the 10% before today.
Yeah, right.
And so is everybody comfortable with 3?
That's, yeah.
Okay, so matching or other monetary contributions for other agencies or groups, they're proposing to get 50% from, is it from ASEP? From ASEP. So, how you want to score that? 3 as well?
3.
That's, yeah.
Okay, 3 as well on that. Low cost for value received, so tell me if you agree with this. I'm thinking, so it's $81,000 of conservation value, it's 34 acres. That gives us $23.82 per acre. If this thing gets conserved, that's what the, essentially what's being paid out to conserve this 34 acres. Marvin, what you reckon farmland selling for these days? Is that a good value?
In that area, it's probably the best farmland in the county.
You think 2382 is a good value? From our perspective?
Yes.
So a 5?
So we give it a 5 for that. Is there any other financial benefit that anybody can think of? Or that the applicant could say to us? Do you know of any other financial benefit? I don't know what that means, so if you can tell us something, we're open ears.
Maybe, for future reference, I could talk to Riley and see, what their opinion of that is, because I
Okay.
can't make a statement.
Okay, thank you. Okay, does anybody have a recommended score for that? I think it almost has to be 0 because we don't see anything that rings that bell. Other incentives?
I would say it's development potential.
Okay, and also I think you mentioned in your visit, I think you did that, or maybe it's an application that this could help
Others,
precipitate other
Yeah.
owners in the area wanting to conserve.
Yeah.
Y'all want to give it a 3 for that, or what do y'all think?
3's fine with me.
Okay,
Yes.
all right. So that gives us what?
14.
14. You got our official score there, Katie?
42.
42 is our official score, so we need a motion and a second to approve this as our final score, or our criteria ranking score. Do I hear a motion for that?
So moved.
Second. Okay, any discussion on that? And let me say that, in thinking about this stuff, I asked Shay, okay, well, hey, you got a number that somebody's got to score before you give a grant? And he said, no, we didn't develop a number system like that. It was used to compare applications, okay? And if we want to follow that thought, we're not going to make a decision right now. We're going to rank the other properties. Is that okay with everybody?
Okay.
Yes.
Okay, all right.
Mr. Smith, we need a vote. Sorry.
Any more discussion on that? All in favor of approving the 42?
Yeah.
Aye.
Aye.
Okay.
Katie. Exit.
Yeah, those aren't much.
Provide me with the last,
The Worthington.
Worthington, yes.
Oh, you got to sit out?
I've got to exit for the while, but I'll be
Okay,
back.
all right. We're getting really good bulletin board material. Bring your reading materials. Okay, so now we're going to the Lyles Estate. Okay, did you do your ranking at home?
No,
That's cool.
We didn't need it.
I'm sorry.
We just did it.
I should have.
So Ryan, you need this two-page sheet,
Okay.
and you need this four-page worksheet.
Okay, I don't know that I
You got
have,
that in here, so
I do.
And then you need the Lyles application. Do you have it?
No.
Okay.
Can I get that?
Have you got one, Katie, or should I give you my computer?
No, I have one.
I need one too.
I've only got one copy.
Okay.
Maybe I do. Let's see. I got Max. I do have his, but I don't have the wild one.
Lyles.
Yeah.
Let's see, that's not what I want.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
I think what I'm gonna give you my paper copy. So we're going to page 9 of the application. Section 4, conservation criteria. Everybody there? On the application. So now we're working with the worksheet, okay? All right, so wetlands. Yes, it does. So, you know, they did attach maps, but I found those maps, well,
What does your, mine says no on wetlands.
Okay, so mine's checked no.
Mine's checked no on wetlands.
oh, you're right, I'm sorry, sorry. That's correct. Okay, all right, so that's a 0. So blue line streams, yes. How many points we giving it? We giving it 5?
Yes.
5 it is? We okay with that? Okay, adjacent to outstanding natural resource waters, yes. 5 again, presence of a habitat suitable for threatened and endangered species. It doesn't have any, but it has habitat suitable for. How many points y'all want to give it for that?
Let me make sure I'm correct on this. We are filling in the criteria worksheet, or are we doing the
We're
score?
filling in this.
Okay, I
Criteria.
was looking, all right, I was on the wrong sheet, sorry.
That's okay.
So we're 5.
So we're 0, 5, 5. Now we're on presence of our habitat suitable. And it does have habitat suitable. How many points do we want to give it?
3.
3, okay with everybody?
3.
No presence, but habitat
Yeah.
is their answer, okay? Presence or habitat suitable for native wildlife species.
Again, a 3.
Well, they say yes, that it has them. I'd give it a 5.
I'd give it a 5 too, because of this stream.
Is 5 okay, Fran?
Okay.
Okay. Presence of special or concentrated biodiversity, the answer is no to that. And for the unique geological natural features, that gives a total of
18.
18. All right. Percentage sharing a boundary with protected land. Their answer to that is 1 to 25%. 4. Historic cultural features, their answers are, for the first 3 are no's, but then it's got the Oconee settlement there. I'd say give it 5 for that. What do y'all think? That's question number 9 in their application on page 10.
Yes, I would.
Okay, 5, everybody okay with 5?
Where does that go on our scoring sheet, the other criteria?
Okay, it's on page 2, historic
At the top.
cultural features. It's the last row in that table. Bueno?
All right, and so we scored 5 above that at historic?
Yeah, we scored 5 on the historic, prehistoric site or location of a historic event.
Right.
Gave it a 5 for that. So our total score for that historic cultural features is 5.
Okay.
Prime statewide important soil types.
25.
It's only 40%. To me, that's still a good percentage. I don't think we should blank them on that, but it doesn't make it into our category. I'd suggest 2. I mean, what do y'all think?
I would say a 3.
Fran says 3. Everybody okay with 3? 3. Actively farmed, I know it is. I see them farming it all the time, and they
Yeah.
gave us the documentation for that. It's a 5. Public visibility of the property, it's on a county road, that gets a 5. You can see it from public lands. It adjoins the Forest Service, so they should get a 3 for that, in my opinion. Everybody okay with that? So that's a total of 8. Scenic view from property. Ryan, you think it's got a scenic view when you're standing on the property?
I mean, you compare it to like jumping off rock. I mean, it's not like that, but it's a nice view.
Is it better than like a convenience center?
Oh my gosh, yeah. Yeah, I mean,
Just give it a 5.
I'd give it at least a 4, but I could say 5.
Okay, 5's fine. That's beautiful out there. Everything you're looking at is pretty, whether it's on that land or not. Public access, this one, they're saying it can be limited public access. So we give it a 5 for that, for making limited. Does that sound reasonable? I mean, that's part of the intention with this property is that it can be, have trails on it and all that sort of stuff. I'm not sure why it didn't get scored unlimited, but they said limited, so I'm going with that.
Chairman, on the public visibility,
Yes, ma'am.
the maximum score is 5, and I believe you gave him an 8, and the max is a 5.
Well, it's 2 different questions, though.
It says maximum score 5.
Okay, but it's 2 different.
I mean, I'm just going by what this says.
Okay.
Yeah, how is that though? That doesn't.
But it's 2 different questions.
Yeah.
That makes sense to me that it wouldn't, you couldn't give them both. Because one, they're asking, is it, can you see it from a road? Yeah. And then they're also asking, can you see it from a river or from a
Waterway.
a park or national forest?
I mean, I just was pointing that out.
I got you.
So,
Maybe
but,
we need to change that.
I
so
think we
just
should
let
change
me know
it.
what you want it to be.
Like, for instance, public access, maximum score is 10, and you got limited versus unlimited at 5. I mean,
Well, I think if you, unlimited's kind of the better category, so
Yeah.
if you score in that, you get the big score.
yeah.
But I don't see these 2 competing, seeing it from a road and seeing it from public land. I don't see.
Where did this score sheet come from?
Probably, like Eddie said, derived from the South Carolina Conservation Bank, this criteria, which I believe they're in the process of revising. But anyhow, I mean, so
So I guess we.
Katie's
put
telling
0,
us our max is 5.
Then we just go with 5.
Okay, all right. I think we should review this form as well, because I think we could make it. we
Because
could
some
improve it.
can score both. I mean, really,
Absolutely.
yeah.
Now we're on threat of development, and we got our little questions there. It is adjacent to a park, so it could get a 5 for that.
Maximum is 5.
Is the maximum 5?
Yes.
Okay, all right.
Well, and if you look, it'd be 0 for all the other ones anyway. Because you're not near a municipality.
Right.
But the crazy thing is, you could be. I mean, like, we're gonna be addressing that property is, the next one.
Yeah, and for me, it's, we need another category under threat of development, and that's, I don't care where it is in relation to anything, you know?
Might be good to communicate a couple of these questions to your contact at Riley.
Yeah, Raleigh.
Raleigh.
Okay. So we're giving it a 5 for threat of development. Size of property, it's in the first category, it's 156 acres. All right, so 5 for that. What's our total?
60.
Total of 60. All right, so now let's go to the other sheet, which is the 2-pager evaluation criteria scoring. And we're going to look at the financial, Section 2 financial. We got a score there. So our total was 60. Okay. Funding percentage requested, we had discussion about that, Ryan, where the best score would be in a situation where you had a property owner that's donating it, but it was just trying to get closing costs covered. You know, the 0 would be 100%. You know, and now that, as Marvin was saying, now that we have our new criteria of 10%, if they ring the bell for, okay, they asked for 10%, that's going to be over towards the good or excellent part. So here, they've asked for 13%. I'd rank that good or excellent myself. What do y'all think?
Well, as I understand it, we currently can only go to 10.
Yes.
They're asking for 13.
Yes.
So that's still on the good, at least good side.
Yeah, I would say good.
Okay, so that's 4. Matching our other monetary, they're asking for 170 from, so the conservation value is $340,000 for the
Okay.
conservation easement. So they are asking for half of that from the South Carolina Conservation Bank. So how do we rank their efforts to get other funds? I'd say it's at least a 3, but could be higher. I mean, what do y'all think?
Well, they've got at least half of it matched, so. So at least a 3 in my mind.
4,
Francis, 4, and how come 4?
because I think they have at least 50%.
Okay, you think 50% warrants a 4?
Yeah.
Okay. Everybody okay with that, or you want to stick with 3?
It still leaves a half to be funded, so
Okay.
3 to me is.
I think that's 3's.
Okay, so we're going with the 3 on that. Low cost for value received, so $340,000 divided by 156 acres gives us $2,180 per acre as a value. Does that sound like a good value? What would that land sell for?
Sounds a little low, I mean, to me.
What do you mean low?
That's the conservation.
So the conservation,
Right. If this gets a
Value.
conservation easement, what it costs to get it is $2,180 per acre.
okay.
Is that a good value? So, you know, that's the expenditure out to, boom, preserve this land. Is that a good value?
I'd say it's solid. I mean,
Okay. Solid, what's solid gonna get? So that's low cost for value received. What do we wanna give it? 5? I mean, I'd sure like to see one that's lower, but I don't know if you will. Ryan?
I'm thinking. I'd say good. I mean, so we go to excellent when we're getting a really good deal for the the actual easement we're.
Low
obtaining.
cost for value received. The value received is perpetual conservation.
I'd say good. I mean, that'd be mine.
Was your number 4 or 5?
4.
What's your number, Fran?
4.
Okay, 4. Other financial benefit.
Well, this is the one property that could have public asset access. Does that qualify as it's not a financial benefit though?
Yeah.
It's just public access.
I'm not sure what that would mean exactly.
Are they going to other sources?
Well, isn't that matching our other monetary contributions?
That's received,
Well,
and
I don't know.
whether they're going for it.
Well, all right, so let's leave it open right now. So let's look at other financial benefit and other incentives. The landowner is going to put up $85,000. Question number 2 is contributions from other agencies or groups. So the landowner doesn't fit into that. The landowner is going to either fit in other financial benefit or other incentives. So we're going to give them a 5 for one of those because the landowner's putting up $85,000 or willing to.
I guess that'd fall in other incentives, wouldn't it?
That's kind of where I put that.
Yeah.
So let's go with 5 for that, but other financial benefit. Anybody have a conception of what that might mean in this case? Could it be that it's going to generate revenue for?
Well, I mean, like if we designated an area as a Revolutionary War site, you could have a financial benefit by people using it and groups or media. I mean, I'm just thinking outside the box.
Maybe so.
Like
Maybe
a
so.
property like this, to me, I don't see a financial benefit unless the owner is receiving the benefit of renting out for
That's right.
the ag that's up there, the hay and the whatever they do in those bottoms. But I mean, they're no longer allowed to timber.
No, they can
Or
timber.
can they? Are they are? I mean, okay, so.
It's a benefit to him.
But that's still a private,
Agriculture,
that's still a
yes,
private
nothing
benefit.
to us, nothing.
Yeah, that's-
But what about the aspect of them building trails on there? Is there a financial benefit from that?
Are people going to pay to walk the trails?
I don't think so.
Probably not, but they're gonna buy gas, they're gonna buy
I
food.
mean, like
they're
Stump
gonna stay
House
at
Tunnel, we
hotels.
could say that.
Huh?
Stump House, yes. This, no.
I just-
I mean,
But it draws tourists in that spend money.
that's,
I don't think it will draw tourists.
Well, this whole area draws tourists.
well, you go up
Just
there,
adds to that.
the horse camp nearby, I mean, it could draw people. I mean,
Would they pay?
Well, they're gonna spend money in the county.
but me personally, I think it's addressing, does this property, and I say 0 in that regard. I do think there's other incentives,
Okay, right.
but
Okay. All right, so what's our total then?
So the other financial benefit was 0.
That's
and
correct.
Other incentives was 5.
That's correct.
what was that, 16?
16, so total score of 76. And Ryan, we talked a little bit more about our scores. The one thing we're going to do, we're going to move to approve this, but we're not making a decision now on each property.
Okay.
Shay said one of their concept of the criteria ranking was so they could compare
Yeah.
the rankings, okay?
Okay.
Get the most
So,
value out of it.
So do we have a motion to approve 60 and 16 to make 76 for our ranking of this property?
So moved.
That
A
was-
second.
Okay, discussion, none, all approved? Aye.
Aye.
Okay, very good. So now we're going to move on to, let me get that application back from you, to the third one in there.
Same sheet, just right out the side.
Right.
Yeah, I've got it.
So,
What page are we starting on there, Mr. Chairman?
on the application,
Yes.
9. Okay, let's see.
On to Worthington.
So you need your criteria scoring sheet, 2 pages. You need your criteria worksheet, 4 pages, and you need your application. Everybody got everything they need?
Hold up.
We were,
You do, Marvin?
I do.
You got it all, okay? How about you, Fran?
Yeah.
parts of it.
And I've got a,
Katie,
I got
could
an
you sit beside me and keep me organized?
if somebody needs an application, I can give them a paper one because I've got it. Say,
What do you?
We're looking at this application on Worthington Heights, are we?
That's correct.
That's the statement of interest, it looks like.
you're looking for this
Completed
application?
application.
No, it's an application for funding.
I'm telling you, right here.
See what you got. Yeah, this is the application. So what page are you on?
9.
We're gonna go to 9. Everybody there?
Thank you.
You're welcome.
So let me just say, the next time we do this, let's do this at home,
Okay.
and then we come in with it, and I didn't say that before, and that's why we're doing it now, which
Okay,
is
so
good.
I have a question though.
Yes, sir.
We're scoring these based on the information in the application
That's correct.
solely, not walking the property, correct?
Well, Fran gave us a little bit of input from her visit there. You gave a little
Yeah,
input of
because
what you
I've
can
been
see
there.
from
I
that.
mean,
sitting
I
here-
can see it in my mind, but I'm just curious, what do you guys see?
Well, we trust what you
hard.
say.
Well, I know, it's hard when you're looking at these applications. I mean, they're probably a lot more used to dealing with it, but I have to see a property to
Yep.
know it,
Yeah, okay.
That's just.
No, I understand that 100%. I agree.
I think both.
Yeah.
From
Yeah.
the application and from the visit. Otherwise, the site visit is moot.
So, maybe that goes towards, in our criteria, having a category in there that is derived from looking at it. I mean, or maybe some subjective category, other values, and then if you can articulate those values, we can give points for that.
I just think it helps give us more accuracy when at least 2 of us have been there.
Yeah.
You know?
No, I agree. And now, I don't know if any of us have been to this property.
I have.
Okay, you have.
Been all over.
Nobody else has. We didn't assign anybody to go visit last time, but thankfully you've been there, and we've got a good application. So you're going to speak from that.
I can.
That's good. And, I don't think it's mandatory that we have visits, but I
It's
think.
good.
I think we all agree that that's the right
Sharp
thing
as
to
a
do.
pencil,
Without a doubt. And, here's one thing, just on the application itself. Number 1, does property contain or adjoin wetlands?
That's automatic.
It says yes, and then attached certification, a map's attached. I can't really tell anything from the maps myself.
I have a question. How is the recent Trump decision on wetlands affected by this?
You mean, how does it affect us?
Yeah.
That's just WOTUS, that's small ponds or ditches that hold water, but not wetlands like this.
That's waters of the United States. That doesn't mean it's not a wetland, in my opinion. A scientist will tell us whether it's a wetland or not.
But-
A lawyer will or a politician will tell us whether it's waters of the United States.
That's exactly
Could be
right.
reversed
I hope not.
within the administration, whether that's.
Just some really good
That's right.
pictures.
But what I'm saying is that on all of these, I think it would be good if we asked them, not only give us the maps or whatever, but describe it a little bit. Like in the
Instead of
application on the
yes and no.
Lyles,
Yeah.
it said 1 mile of Whetstone Creek or something like that, or however many feet it was. I think that would help me understand it a little bit more, because I'm not gonna read that map accurately myself. But anyhow, so let's go ahead and let's rank this thing. And so, wetlands, what's it getting for wetlands? 5?
Say 5.
Okay. All right, how about blue line? Yes, gets a 5 for that.
0 for this.
0 for adjacent to outstanding natural resources, presence, 5 on endangered species.
You put
Okay.
0 for adjacent to water classifies as.
Because
That
it
is,
says-
that's
what
what
they
they
said.
answered.
They put a
Sorry,
note.
what was the question?
That seems,
Does the property contain or adjoin water classified as either 1, outstanding natural resource water, 2, outstanding resource water, or, I'm sorry, outstanding natural resource water, 2, outstanding resource water, or 3, trout water by South Carolina or DHEC? And
it's
it may
right
have been,
beside Devil's Fork State Park.
It is, but it doesn't
It's not.
actually adjoin.
Oh.
It's a small,
Yep.
like, half acre away. And
Wow.
so I don't
It's got
wanna,
technically it doesn't.
correct, I don't wanna be disingenuous.
Yeah, okay.
Okay, that's a no.
Real close.
God, it's close.
And McKinney Creek is,
Yeah.
they found fingerling trout in there, so you could say, yes, it does have trout.
It could make it, yeah.
Give it a 1.
I mean, it's a really impressive stream. I've been in it. I mean,
It's in the watershed, correct?
It's absolutely in the watershed, but you wouldn't go fish for trout on McKinney Creek. Does it contain trout? Yes, it probably has some spawning fingerling trout in there. But again, I didn't want to just stretch the boundaries
We appreciate that.
of what.
Well, in my opinion, the value is pretty high because of the fingerling. The use of public is pretty low because you're not going to be fishing it. As far as fish habitat, I mean,
So this is a very specific question, though. If yes, please provide evidence of such classification. We have asked, has it been classified by South Carolina as one of those 3? The answer is no.
okay.
And
As
that,
far as I know, yes.
I mean, that's, we're back into our value thing that we could put in there, but I think we have to answer no to that because it hasn't. It's an official designation. So we've done threatened endangered species, either presence or habitat of 5. Native wildlife species, same 5. Presence of special or concentrated biodiversity, 5. Is that right? Unique geological natural feature, yes,
I'd give it a 5.
5 on that. So our total there,
Did you?
30.
30. That's our 30 total right there. Percentage of property sharing a boundary with
5,
protected
yes.
land. So what it's not, it doesn't adjoin Devil's Fork.
It does not actually adjoin Devil's Fork, however, it does adjoin an easement held by the HOA of the Cliffs. That is an Army Corps mitigation.
Conservation easement?
Yes.
They say 26% to 50%.
I understand. I'm just trying to figure out what, because I knew it wasn't Devil's Fork. I think, I was looking at it on the Oconee County Appraiser's website. It looked like Duke Power owns adjacent properties to it.
They do.
Is that property protected?
You can't count that as protected. Yes.
Why not?
Sorry.
Just so we can, sorry.
Because it's privately owned? I mean, why can't we count it? I mean, is it a conservation easement on that,
It's
Duke?
not, Duke Energy's power line is not a conservation easement. It's a right-of-way easement, but not a conservation easement.
Okay.
They're spraying,
Spray the.
yeah, they spray it, the
Okay.
pesticides, herbicides, so.
So that 26 to 50% is that border with the HOA's land that has a conservation easement on it?
Correct.
And how big is that border?
I don't know in linear feet, but that's where I got that
Okay.
number, yes.
All right, thank you, Mac. So what do we want to give it for that? Max is 6.
I'd give it a 5.
I'm good with
When they
that.
say 26% to 50%.
5 okay?
Sounds good.
5 sounds good.
Okay, that's our total. All right, historic cultural features, the applicant says 0 all the way down. Soil types, 0 all the way down. Actively farmed, 0 all the way down. Public visibility of property. I'm betting it's getting a 5 at least. Is it visible from county roads
Yes.
or state
Yeah.
roads?
It's visible from the lake, it's visible
Okay.
from the dam.
Yeah.
Our max is 5, so I would say a 5 on that. Scenic view from property, is it?
Well, we get back to the same question, maximum of 5 again.
Yeah, we're maxed out, and I disagree with that myself. I think it should be maximum of 8.
Yeah, I do too.
Uh-huh.
Scenic view from property, I would definitely give it a 5. I mean, you count a complete field of Oconee Bells as scenic? I do, but.
Okay, and so I think it means what you can see off of the property. And for me, if I'm standing on the
Middle
edge
of
and
the
looking.
forest below I mean, to me, it's scenic.
If you're in,
There's rhododendron and.
yeah,
it's
if you're
beautiful
looking
to me.
what's on the property, it's absolutely scenic. If you're standing on one of the roads that runs through the property that allows access to the property and you're looking out, that's scenic. You can look out and pretty much see Lake Jocassee and the surrounding other properties.
It
So.
provides a scenic view.
Let's give it a 5.
But you don't have a granitic outcrop
It's not
where,
visible from the-
Yeah, you're not.
It is.
Yeah, I agree with that. I mean, it would make sense to me. You've been there.
Yeah, I mean, it felt like I was walking in a state park. I mean, it's good. Picture the cliffs with no houses. That's what it felt like.
that's it.
Seriously, that's what it is.
5 okay with everybody for that?
Yeah.
Yes.
Public access, what'd you say on that? Unlimited? Unlimited, that's a 10. All right, threat of development. It's not within or adjacent to a park. Mighty close.
I mean, threat of development, if we don't fund this, it could be purchased and developed easily. I mean,
With
it's got
access to the
roads
state.
already graded in.
Right.
So
So what's our max on this, Katie?
5.
Okay.
Give it a 5.
To me, it goes to what I think is a better criteria that we should have on there is whether it's close to a municipality or a park. That doesn't matter to me as much as just, I mean, we know everything can be developed and it's beautiful, and why wouldn't it be? You know, I mean, is there something like it's too steep, you can't develop it? And that's not, the answer is no, it can be developed.
Everything can be developed.
Right.
this is situated near a state park and an extremely popular tourist destination adjacent to the cliffs. I mean, I don't know how it could be any more appealing to a potential developer.
Right.
And it was actively on the market.
Yeah, it was. That's why I was.
See, that should be part of our criteria. What do y'all want to give it for that? Our max is 5.
I give it the max.
5. Size of protected property, it still fits into that first category at 193 acres. How many points y'all want to give it for that?
5.
5, okay. What's our total there?
65.
Okay. Financial criteria, funding percentage requested. Now, this gets weird because they asked for
4%.
25,000, that's 4%. And you know,
I'm regretting that. I didn't know this was going to be discussed.
I know. And see,
so
that
we
kind
have we have a logistical challenge here. One would be, can we allow Mr. Stone to amend his application here and now? Or do we say, okay, guys, we would give it more if he had asked for more, if he knew he could ask for more, we'll give him well, we're at 10% of what we could give, yeah.
How much was?
But he hadn't asked for it. That's the problem.
That's right.
Do we say, we give you what you asked for, come back with another application? That's our choices. Our choices are tell him to reapply, period. Tell him we'll grant you some now and reapply, or let him amend now.
Letting him amend it.
And there's nothing that would change in your amendment except the line, how much you're asking for, correct?
Correct.
Being that we changed our budget
Yes, sir.
today,
Yes, sir.
I mean, or the
cap.
cap, I'm comfortable with modification here, amendment.
I think it's fair.
Let's do it in writing. You want to write something up for us?
Be happy to.
Okay.
However you'd like it.
And what would you,
However you would like it
you
written.
don't have any letterhead with you, do you?
Not with me, no.
Okay, all right, just write something up.
On the letterhead.
I'd be happy.
Eddie and Katie will witness it.
Okay.
And so let's just, we're in your application, what you're gonna
Or
actually.
you mean physically today on paper?
Yeah,
Okay,
because we're making our
Write it
decision
up.
today.
okay.
And so, just trying to see where you,
It's game time.
It's good. It's fun.
Chairman.
yes,
Would
ma'am.
it be easier if I were to print out an application and just on whatever page that is and amend it that way? That
Yep.
might be a cleaner way to do it.
Absolutely.
Okay, and I can do that, I can't print anything from this computer, so I can do
Okay.
it after the meeting. if
We'll do
that's
that
okay.
after the meeting.
And then, if you can sign it, and then I'll get the chairman, if you don't mind signing it, just saying that we.
Okay.
Thank you.
So, how much you gonna ask for?
With this amendment, I would be asking for 60,000. So the appraised value is 580, and we have another 20,000 in closing costs because we have to get it surveyed, title, ESA Phase 1, and closing costs. So we're looking at, essentially, this is a $600,000 project. So 10% of that would be 60.
Okay, that's what we needed to know. Thank you, Matt.
You're welcome.
All right, so funding percentage requested is, yes, ma'am?
You would need a motion in order for him to do that, in order for him to turn that into.
Do we have a motion?
I make a motion.
Do we have a second?
State your motion.
I make a motion that we, let Mac Stone amend his request to amend his request to read a amount of 60,000. Is that?
Yeah.
On the application.
Okay. Which is 10%, yeah, okay. We have a second on that?
Second.
Any discussion?
60,000 or 10%? What'd you say?
I said 60,000.
All right, who seconded it?
Martin.
I did.
Okay, thank you.
Any discussion on that? All in favor? Aye. Okay. All right, funding percentage requested is 10%. How are we gonna score that?
5.
That'd be a 5? That okay?
Yep.
Matching or other monetary contributions. This the one where you're asking for 450,000 from the Conservation Bank?
Yes, sir.
Okay, so he's asking for $450,000 from the South Carolina Conservation Bank. What percentage of that is the total value? It's like 60 or 70%, right?
70%.
That's excellent.
What we give him, 5 for that? Okay. Low cost for value received, it's around $3,000 an acre is the way I figure it. 580 divided by 193 is $3,005. It's 600,000, so it's a little bit better. So it's right at $3,000 an acre.
So I would, when y'all were discussing this earlier, the question I would have for you, are you considering, is the price per acre a reasonable price to pay? Or are you looking at, is the cost to the Oconee County Conservation Bank a good value? Because your price per acre is different
That's right.
than the South Carolina Conservation Bank's price per acre. Your price per acre is much lower.
Yeah.
It's much lower.
That's
but
why I
we
think
did
it's a
put the value.
5.
Yeah.
I mean, I look at it, it's our cost.
Correct. What value are you getting?
Okay, I
Like,
understand.
what are we getting as a conservation bank for what we're putting in?
So if we go that route, we need to go that route. We need to go back to Moore and Lyles and do the same thing.
Okay.
What do y'all think about that? We're discussing how to interpret what that means, low cost for value received. Do we look at it as the total conservation value per acre or just what it costs us per acre? So if we gave a grant of $60,000, 193 into $60,000, that's going to be around $300 an acre, right? Is that how that would work? Because it's not 600,000, it's 60,000.
But I also.
So we just knock a zero off, right?
I mean, I
So
just
it's
But
took
I
it-
look at it as, it's a value to Oconee County,
Yeah.
not just a dollar value, but what's
Well, I mean,
public
the
won't
title
get it.
of that category is low cost for value received.
Okay.
I think it's pretty straightforward.
Okay,
So
just look at it from our,
That's the way
you're right.
I-
I was looking at it from the bigger perspective of the total, but we should just look at it from
I
our,
think it's,
Yeah.
like this property in particular is a bargain for Oconee County to
yeah, and that's
be
what
a
we can.
participant in the,
In other words, an example would be if we go to Duke, we spent $300 an acre that it would not have preserved it if we had to spend
saved
our
and
money.
preserved.
That's right.
So
Yeah.
it works with us better than anybody else.
And we need that more than, having to pay out.
Okay. What do y'all think? Y'all think that's a better way to look at it?
Yeah.
I agree.
Okay. Well, you're always gonna get a 5 now. Everybody is, which is fine.
Well, my thought is, and I'm not trying to interrupt, but, other properties don't necessarily get a 5 if I feel like there's a more limited use.
Right.
If,
Well, we're
think
always gonna be spending a low percentage of the total values because the nature of where we come from.
I guess I'm saying my interpretation of the value we're receiving,
Okay.
meaning,
The county.
So is that a 5?
yes.
Low
That's a
cost?
5, and I think we're probably gonna give the same 5s to Moore and Lyles. Let's do that later. Let's finish
Okay.
this. Okay. So, other financial benefit. Any ideas
Well,
there?
financial benefit to the county.
Of what?
They're coming to the state park and they're gonna spend.
Well, that's the same thing we had with the Lyle property.
I think this one is legitimately close enough to the park that if we had some trails in there, it could be, didn't you say that there is an attempt to try to get this included and see if the state park would actually take over?
There would be two options. Either a state park could take over. If they won't take over, we then work to acquire that connector piece that then joins them, which would incentivize them to take over. Or two, DNR takes over through their Heritage Preserve program. Or the third option is we hold on to it, allow people to hike on it, put it into the WMA program, and allow people to hunt or fish or hike, and that's managed by DNR. The financial question, though, so would you all consider it a benefit if, let's say, we own this property and we logged it and we harvested the timber and we're then selling it and employing a mill or something like that?
Well, that's the same question on the Lyles property.
Same exact thing.
And we were looking at that as a private benefit more than a public benefit.
Correct. Okay, so,
But I don't know if that's the way we should look at it, but that's how we did it in looking at that.
Well, you're gonna be buying the property on the Lyles property. We're not buying it, we're putting an easement on it. So we're comparing apples to oranges in a
Okay.
way. Because the Lyles property, they can still receive,
Okay, right.
log it and be okay with it. On this, it's a different animal because
we're not going to. I'm just curious
Right.
how we would frame a narrative and how we would be able to answer your questions more completely so that we know what you want to know exactly. Another financial benefit would be that y'all's grant actually leverages and brings other funders to the table. That's a financial benefit.
Yeah. It's pretty broad.
Yeah, it's a
Topic of-
little murky and
Yeah.
It is.
not quite sure how to answer it or how to define it.
And how does other incentives fit into that? I think it was obvious with that other property, the property owner's gonna put in 85,000. That's a huge incentive. That's an obvious, I think, incentive. Right?
Yeah, it's just, I think it's the proximity to Devil's Fork State Park and the fact that people specifically go up there to hike and see the Oconee Bells, it's pretty high traffic. If you go back in there, this could really help them because they'd have additional
Oconee Bells to look at.
Yeah.
So what do you want to give it for other financial benefit?
Well, they pay a fee to get into Devil's Fork State Park, right?
Yep. And the county gets does the county get a portion of that?
I think so. I think that goes to PRT.
It's all state money.
I think so. Because they have to be self-sufficient, state parks do.
Okay. So I'd maybe score,
Well, they could raise the fee to get in by a little bit, and we could consider that an additional
But that's
benefit.
speculative.
Just give it a 3. Got fair potential.
I mean, I hate to give it 0 because I think there is some financial benefit, but I don't know how to get my hands on it.
And you think that's different from the Lyles?
I do. I don't know. It's just,
I mean, there could be horse trails on the Lyles property.
Yeah.
Coming off of the horse trails in the
But that's
national parks.
speculative again.
That's right. That's correct. I mean, what's our pleasure?
I would go with 3 on financial
I was
benefit.
thinking that.
And other incentives, I would probably score 5 like the Lyles because of, I interpret other incentives as use in trails and or, I mean, where those bells are at specifically, I mean, you're right. If we could figure out a way to park, you could do a lot quicker road access than having to go all the way up into Devil's Fork. You could pull over and hike down. I mean, they're within 100 yards of, not even 150 yards of Jocassee Lake Road. So, I mean, it's just,
So we're looking at other financial incentives, not just general value.
so let's go, I suggest 3 for other financial benefit and 5 for other incentive.
We okay with that? Marvin, you good with that?
We're gonna fund it, so.
3 and 5 then, okay. What's our total? Okay.
88?
Total for that would be 23.
23. And total is,
88.
okay, so let's go back, I think we should, to be fair, go back to Lyles some more on, thank you, Matt.
If that's strictly doing process, do we need to?
If
Yeah.
you're talking, yeah, you're talking about,
Yep, let's do more first.
so you're going back and rescoring it?
We're gonna rescore in the financial,
You're gonna have to amend that motion then, because you already made a motion.
Yeah, we accepted the scores.
y'all wanna, well,
My score that I gave on Lyles is not gonna change. I interpreted it the way I explained it.
Okay.
But maybe I just didn't verbalize it, because I read it.
well, what's the pleasure of the board? Do you think we're okay on?
I think we're
more-
good.
Okay, we're
I
on.
think we're good.
Okay. Sit back
Probably not
down.
gonna affect the out.
No, it's not gonna affect the
So
outcome.
you're not going
Sit back down.
to.
Okay, so now we.
It might be the best decision we've made all day.
Okay, so you need to get a motion in a second and a vote for the final score of 88 on the Worthington High.
Move to approve the 88 score on the Hyde property.
My second. Okay. Any discussion? No, all in favor?
Aye.
Aye. So, Katie, to refresh our memories, will you give us those scores?
Moore property, the final
42.
score was a 42.
Uh-huh.
William Lyle's property, the final score was a 76.
Uh-huh.
And Worthington High Partners, the final score was 88.
Okay. All right. So, and the grant request are 40,000, is it 40,500? 40,500 or more. It was Worthington's 60,000, which is right at 10%. Allows, what was the request on that?
80,000.
Huh?
Wasn't it 80,000 something?
Where is that in the? Oh, it's okay, it's on page 8, 85,000.
85,000.
Okay, 85,000. All right. And in our 10%, this is where we run into a little bit of a new problem. That'd be 8,100 for more. That'd be 34,000 for Louds. That'd be 60,000 for Worthington.
Can I ask a question of what we've been going through for the past hour and a half, coming up with these scores?
Yes, sir.
Are they gonna be meaningless to us?
Huh?
Meaningless to us?
Well, what do you think?
Well, you got an 88, a 76, and a 42.
Yes, sir.
Should one be kicked out because of the score? Are we gonna set a limit somewhere on the score level? Or are we just toss this and accept applications?
Yeah, how are we using it?
Yeah.
Well, that's up to us. It's a tool.
Exactly.
Our guidance was that they designed this so that we could compare applications.
And obviously, the higher the number, the better.
Exactly. And are we gonna approve every single application? We got to have some level of cutoff somewhere.
Mr. Eddie Martin, yes, sir.
In the situation that you are in right now, you've got 3 applications. You've got a set amount of money that you want to spend in the year. Until you get an overage of applications that come into you, I think that you can use this criteria to say, this is our number 1 priority, this is our number 2 priority, this is our number 3 priority. And even if you have more than that, up until the point where you spend the amount that you've designated for the year.
How many more is in the pipeline right now, Eddie?
Right now, I could probably put 1 more in.
For this
There's going to be
year?
one that's just not going to
That's the one
probably
near
fit.
Thomasy?
I'm sorry?
That's the one near Thomasy?
No, that would not be that one. No.
You're
We've had to reschedule and redo some things on that. So that would be out.
talking about the ring fight property?
Yes. So,
My only question is, are these viable numbers? What are we gonna do with these numbers? Are we gonna just,
Use them as guidance.
I think that it gives you an opportunity, if you've got 2 close,
Right.
3 close parcels, and you've only got limited funds, and say that they're, all of ours are at $60,000 or $80,000 or whatever, that's going to give you the criteria to make the choice.
yeah, I understand that, yes.
And we have scrapped our annual budget.
Right.
We've got a per grant budget.
Right.
Well, you
Matt,
still have
you
the
have any-
1/3 factor, though. You still have the 1/3 factor,
That's right.
1/3 amount that you were going to spend
Max.
per session.
Up to that amount, not have to spend it, but
Right.
to that amount.
But that is a limit in
No, I
itself.
think the new budget we created, we
No,
don't
we
have a
only-
limit, an annual
don't.
limit.
Well, I thought it was,
Would that
thought
be
you did.
carryover?
I thought we put a third in.
That's what I originally moved was a third, but then that's when I withdrew that. That whole withdrawing of the motion was withdrawing that third limit per year. So what we voted on was.
So we can go up to, or whatever we've got.
Yeah, and that's where, we use our
But per
discretion
request,
on,
we've
we
set
gotta
a
back off.
10% limit of a 10%
Right.
value based on 10% of the
Okay.
conservation.
While I'm here, I'd like to make another comment, and then I'll sit down and get out of the way. But I think that this meeting has made great strides, all right, from the aspect of seeing how you're going to spend your money and looking at it from each individual application. Today, my cooperator came out as the biggest loser, from the aspect of we could have possibly got 25, now we're down to 8 because of the 10%. But I think the system that you put in place here is much better.
Okay.
Okay, that's just my comment
Right.
there. I think you've got a working system now that you can continue to try to develop.
It makes sense.
Well,
But I mean,
have a
I think the
different-
scoring actually reflects what we're charged at 10%. I mean, it really reflects what we're getting for the money we're spending.
That's true too.
I mean, it reaffirms that we're being pretty smart. Based on these scores and based on the amounts we're allowed to give, I think they're fairly,
Because the more
Accurate.
properties, probably less development,
yeah. I mean,
at risk of development, I'll say that.
Marvin and Fran, y'all have comments?
I have a comment. If we don't jump on these properties now, we are the conservation bank. And if we don't jump on these properties now, they will not be preserved.
Okay. There's an immediacy to it.
Yeah.
Marvin, what do you think?
Well, I think kind of like what Eddie said, if we have an overabundance of applications, we're really gonna have to start
you really gotta use it.
scrutinizing. But as long as we feel comfortable that the 3 properties are worthwhile properties, you know, I'm okay with proceeding, but you know, if we get 10 applications next year and it comes up to be $500,000 or something, then, you know, we may have to start picking and choosing, trying to get the best value of
Bang for your buck.
Andy, what did you come up with total dollars for these 3 applications?
You mean at the 10%?
Yeah, the 10%.
That's gonna be
30,
$102,100. That, I mean, if we maxed out at the 10%, 8,100, 34,000, 60,000, that gives us $102,100. Under the old cap, it would have been 75,000. So that's a good thing to think about, is that, you know, that's 1/6 of the money we have.
Okay, are we at a point where I could possibly make a motion to approve this and us fund it?
Absolutely.
Make the motion.
I would like to make a motion that we fund these projects based on the numbers we just, do I have to spell out the amounts?
It would be clean if we could
Why don't
do one motion at a time.
For each property.
Like for do more, then Lyles, then Worthington, because that's the way that it's on
Okay.
the agenda.
All right. I will amend my motion.
You don't have to amend.
Okay,
because
so
there
I
was
would
no
like to make a motion
Okay.
to approve 60,000 for the Worthington Hyde property.
Second.
Is it a full 60,000 or 10%?
Full 60,000.
You keep saying there's at 10%. So should we say a full 60,000, which is 10%?
It is 10%.
No, that's fine.
What-
Just tell me the amount. That's fine.
Why don't we say both of those things?
Okay,
Just to
so-
have it articulated that it's
Well,
meeting the 10%.
it's actually not 10%, because it'd be 58,000.
He's gonna ask
I
for 60,000.
What we're looking at right now, but,
Yeah, but
yeah, I understand.
we've all agreed that he's gonna
Right.
amend his application to be
Okay.
for 60,000. And that value is
Right.
60,000, the cost.
Oh, we gotta have a second before we can have any.
Yeah.
I second it.
Okay,
I made a second.
all right, so, okay, so let's just hang on just a minute. So our motion, budgetary motion, was 10% of the conservation value, not 10% of
Exactly.
conservation value plus 20% of closing costs. So our max is actually 58,000, not 60.
That's why I wondered where you're coming up with the
That's correct.
money for the conservation.
Right on.
That's actually correct.
Mac?
So I was gonna mention this, that is 60,000 would be 10% of the total transaction value.
Okay.
Okay, we need conservation.
Conservation value, I guess it just depends on how you actually define that. Because in order to protect that property, you do have to close. In order to close, you have to get a survey, you have to get an ESA Phase 1, and you have your due diligence costs. That's not part of the appraised value, but that is essential in order to acquire and protect the property.
I understand.
You got a nice raise today, so.
What's that?
I said, you got a nice raise today. It went from 25 to 58. so-
Absolutely, I'm definitely not splitting hairs. I'm
Yeah.
just, I was saying why I said that number. It wasn't to get more than.
Okay.
Yeah, that's all.
Yeah, we got you. We understand. So one thing we do need to think about, I think, is that, do we designate how this money is to be spent? I mean,
Do we round it off?
Well, no, what I mean is that, do we say, and $20,000 has to be, of this 58 has to be spent on closing costs, or we just say,
Let them worry about that.
okay, all right?
I don't
Okay,
think we need to get
fair
into
enough.
those details.
Or do we round it
So,
off? Yeah.
I think you need to either withdraw or amend your motion.
All right, I would like to withdraw my motion.
I'll withdraw in a second.
I would like to make a motion for the board to approve $58,000 for the Worthington Hyde property, which is 10% of the conservation appraisal,
Conservation value, yeah.
conservation value.
And I'll second that one.
Any discussion there? All in favor?
Aye.
Lyles property. Yes, ma'am.
Did you vote, Mr. Lemon?
Yeah, I voted, yeah.
Sorry.
Do we have a motion on the Lyles property? We're going backwards, Katie, as
Okay,
if you
can
couldn't
you give me
count.
1 second?
Yeah, because I didn't do the more because I can't.
Yeah.
That's why.
Okay, so who,
There you go.
all right.
What was the number on the Lyles?
The Lyles is 34,000. It's 10% of the conservation value.
I make a motion for us to give 34,000 to the Lyles property, which is 10% of the conservation project.
I second that.
Any discussion? All in favor? Aye.
Aye.
All approved? Would you bring Marvin in? Thank you, sir.
8,100.
Yes, right.
And you do, with these motions, we do know that this is going to council for them to approve this.
That's correct.
Okay.
Will that be tonight or future?
Sir, I'm sorry.
When will it go to council?
When
Oh,
will-
it won't be tonight, no,
It will
it'll
not.
be,
October 1st?
October the 1st will be the next one,
Okay,
and I can put it on there again.
all right, great. Do we have a motion on the Moore property? I move that we fund it in the amount of $8,100, which is 10% of the conservation value.
I second that.
Any discussion? All in favor? Aye.
Aye.
All passed.
All right.
Oh, that was a big deal.
Yes, and I've only got just a few minutes, so.
Great.
That's right. So now we're on continued discussion regarding alternative funding sources. Does anybody have anything on that?
Well, I move, I have two comments. One, I move that we officially give CCB gives Mr. Reese
Keys.
Keith, authority to speak for us at,
Presentations, request for funds. I second that.
Well, I mean, technically, we can all speak, can't we? I mean, I accept it, but what I'm saying is, in the event I mean, is that what we're gonna do every time? Like, because my plan, based on the last meeting, was Laura communicated with me contact information for John Bachman at Kiwi Key, who is the liaison for the group at Kiwi Key. They basically have a conduit for members and residents up at Kiwi Key to be able to make charitable donations to, it's like 9 or 10 area, and they're totally different than us. I thought we might appeal to people because they fit the demographic and the people that might have the ability to give to us. So,
Well, the bigger question is, do we need to approve somebody to make presentations?
that's what
And it might be a good idea, just.
But
you
we
know,
don't want
so-
anybody going off, making presentations on that.
Right. I mean, are we ready to do that? Ready to approve for you to do that? I mean, there's more development needed, but that's fine. In this discussion, I would suggest that we let Laura and Ryan go.
And she's communicated, she just doesn't have time until, I think it's fourth quarter, or,
Yeah,
like, she's got a reunion, or, you know.
Are we jumping the gun on this, or should we? I don't know.
I don't think it's anything we need to approve, but that's just my opinion.
I think we need to approve it because we don't want anybody just going off giving presentations or accepting funds.
Maybe a better way to go about it would be when Ryan and Laura are ready, they could say.
I'm not accepting funds. The conservation, and that's what I've got to figure out from, how do people make donations to?
And it's tax deductible.
Yeah.
To give to it.
How do they do it? You know, like, where do they go? Who do they, how do they get a receipt? How do they, you know, that doesn't go through me.
Okay.
So,
Right. I think we do need to figure that out. And what I was going to suggest is maybe what's more appropriate would be when you and Laura are ready, because y'all are going to prepare together, you could say to us, hey, we're ready to go to make this presentation to so-and-so, and we'll have our ducks in a row on about how that comes to our bank account, and then say, yep, y'all go ahead. Does that make?
yeah, I think it's better to approve that it's, any presentation and/or is communicated to the group. But I could be at a meeting this weekend and it be kind of a surprise, but there might be people in attendance that want to know about the Conservation Bank. And then I explain it to them and they could say, well, how would I make a donation to that? Well, I've in effect
I've done that with Farm Bureau, just.
Yeah,
I've solicited funds from them.
yeah, it's just, I don't know that we'll be able to predict every time
That's right.
I have the opportunity to maybe talk about it, or I'm not going to do a PowerPoint presentation necessarily, but,
Okay.
Any
more discussion on this? How do we vote in this?
We table it
Okay.
until we're ready.
Okay, if you table a motion, it's gotta come up at the very next motion or it's dead. The motion's dead. So if you table.
At the
the
very
motion,
next
it's dead.
meeting?
You have to, at the very next meeting. The motion that I have is just for Ryan Keys to speak.
Right.
Well, I'll withdraw the motion.
There you go.
And the second. Okay,
Can I
mine
get
was
a
the second,
second?
yeah. Okay.
Can I
Okay.
get a second?
Yes.
Okay.
Okay.
Can
The
you,
second
want me to
comment.
approve?
Ma'am?
Want me to approve
All
it?
in favor of the withdrawal of that motion? Aye?
Aye.
Okay. Fran?
The second comment I have is, since Greenville County and Pickens County do not have a conservation bank, can we incorporate them somehow or other?
I don't think so, because this was from Duke. Duke gave us parameters. The parameters are for us.
Our council approves it too. They have to approve
So,
what we did.
so no.
Which you would have to get our council to approve.
But
and
we don't
Pickens
want to,
County.
we don't want to do
I
that.
We
don't
can't.
want
I think because,
There is so much land. up
that's
there.
correct, but this is a grant that came to Oconee
come up
County
by a board.
by Duke, related to what Duke had done in Oconee County. And it's the parameters of our funds. And in my opinion that's just too much.
Yeah.
We got enough to deal with right here. We're
Just
very
figuring this out
fortunate we've
for
got
Oconee
this,
County.
but we shouldn't, in my opinion, we shouldn't stretch out at all.
I don't,
Let us be an example and maybe they can get theirs,
Yeah,
you
they
know,
can-
and see how well it works.
Well, they'll
That's
struggle to get off the ground.
as
Well,
we
wouldn't be
are.
Well,
here if
heck.
it weren't for Duke Power.
let them
Yeah.
struggle like we
I mean,
are.
we-
We're still
we
figuring
struggled
this out.
for 6 years before we got any money.
Exactly.
Eddie?
I think your ordinance states that, you're
Yeah.
only able to do things in the county.
Right.
Yeah.
The
That's right.
perimeter, the boundaries of the county are where your focus is.
I think we have two restrictions, our ordinance and our grant from Duke. We just can't do it. And, I mean, we have any other alternatives for funding? No. So we can't raise money for Pickens County because we don't even know how to raise it for ourselves, except by Duke. That's my opinion.
I agree.
But, reasonable idea. Any other, on funding sources?
Yeah, I want to go back to Duke.
Okay. And we will. Once we get some track record, we will go back to Duke. I think what we're doing now will help us. And, what's gonna tell for us is what happens to the other funding for these projects before ASAP, South Carolina Conservation Bank, they get the money they want from there, boom, these transactions occur, then we can go to Duke and say, look at this,
We
it's
spent the
done.
money on
This is what we did with your money. We
Yeah.
were good stewards.
But
and
we
got-
can't say that until
Yeah.
it's inked in that the transactions are closed all the way. That's what we have to wait on. But that's absolutely where we're going.
And I think that,
You clicking the lights at us?
She's got a long
Time to start.
day.
Okay, anything else on the alternative funding sources?
that's my
Presentation,
comments.
okay, I got you. Presentation to Oconee Council, we had talked about just having a presentation to update them on where we are, showing them the PowerPoint at the October 1st meeting. We were gonna talk about the bridge fund, but that is constitutionally prohibited, so we're not gonna talk about that. I still think it's a reasonable idea, and it's.
I was looking at it more for guidance on, should we back off the 25,000, which we've done.
Yeah,
So-
that's good. But here's another, I mean, I guess I would look at it as just to keep us alive in their eyes. For,
Could we do it when we know they don't exactly have a lot on their slate?
well,
When this
I don't
comes
know.
up to October 1st, somebody's gonna have to be here anyway.
that's right. So, I mean, does one of us need to be at the council meeting on October
think-
1st to say, we want you to fund this in the amount of 34, 81,
As-
58?
As the chairman, you would need to be there in
That's
case
my
they
job.
have any questions.
I gotta go
But
anyway.
I do ask, because
So
it
answer
wasn't put in
questions.
a motion, in the original motions, if you guys could make a motion to, forward these to council, and you don't have to put a date or anything, but just for those, I mean, it is. like,
Okay,
it's
we need to make a
given,
motion for that?
But I think it would just be a clean way just to say, hey, these need to go to council.
Okay,
And with that, just to go, I would say, go ahead and just put all three in one motion for the
Okay.
amounts stated
Gotcha.
above.
So I move that we tell me to make a presentation to the council to present them these recommendations for funding for all three of these properties, and to make a general presentation, like the PowerPoint or whatever will work within our 10-minute window. Period. What do you mean no?
The motion that I want, the motion that, or
It's
not
just
that
the
I want, what
funding.
I need is, all I need for you to do is basically just say, I want the, William Lyles, estate, the Moore property and Worthington Hyde properties just needs to go to council, for approval.
Okay.
For the
I moved it.
amounts listed above, something like that. As far as the and we can do that later, I mean, before we end.
Okay,
The
all right.
presentation to council, that would need to be separate.
Okay. I move that we send our recommendations to council for the funding of the Moore, Lyles, and Worthington properties in the amounts approved of 8,100, 34,000, 58,000. Period.
Second.
Any discussion?
I have a second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Okay.
Perfect.
But I think when this comes up to council, it would be very good for you to at
Yes,
least come to the podium and if they have any questions.
yes, Chairman, if you could be here October the 1st.
I'll do it.
Okay,
Make us look
I
good.
will- Or whatever date that is on the agenda for council, it may not be October the 1st, I don't wanna set that in
Okay.
stone, but I will
Okay.
let you know.
Do we need a motion for that, for me to go do that? No, okay. All right.
And I
That's
suggest that you invite representatives of Greenville and Pickens County to the presentation, or whatever you're gonna give, so that they can see what we're doing
Okay.
and they could copy it.
I take that. If you give me the people I need to talk to, I'll consider doing that, okay? I'm not gonna go do that work to find out who I need to invite. If you do that, I'll consider it. New business. Katie created an intro, I think at our request, for the website, and I did a little editing on it. Have we all got that?
No, I just sent it to you.
I mean, can we make copies of it so everybody can look at it?
You can just read it to them.
Okay, I'll read it to you. Here it is. The Oconee County Conservation Bank Board, OCCB, was established to protect lands with significant natural, cultural, and/or historic resources in the county that met specific criteria by providing a financial incentive to willing landowners to convey either a conservation easement or fee simple title to eligible recipients. The Conservation Bank Program will simultaneously protect valuable natural resources and private property rights. If you would like to apply for a grant from the OCCB, please fill out the Statement of Interest form that you can click on and return to the Clerk of Council. Once the Statement of Interest has been submitted and approved by the OCCB, you will be asked to fill out and submit an application form, which can be clicked on, to the Clerk to Council. The deadline dates for submission of applications are April 1st, August 1st, and November 1st. These forms can be submitted via email at ksmith@oconeesc.com or mailed to or dropped off with the Clerk to Council at the Pine Street Administrative Complex, 415 South Pine Street, Walhalla, South Carolina, 29691. Decisions on applications will be made within 60 days of the submission deadlines. The idea for this is when anybody goes on the website and clicks down to us, they'll see this written, and they've got a way to get the statement of interest form and the application form. I added that decisions on applications will be made within 60 days. I don't think I like that. And so everything before that is what we need to approve or not approve to be on the website.
I make a motion, we approve everything before the 60 days.
Okay.
Second.
Any discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Any old business? Motion to adjourn? Adjourn?
I make a motion.
Second.
All in favor? Aye.